Good evening, welcome to this week's Parsha Shir. This week's Parsha, Parshas Mishpatim, deals with all the Gemaras that may have been learned in Baba Kama, Baba Metzia, Baba Basra, so many halachas regarding civil and criminal law. And I want to share with you a very interesting case. I give credit to Rabbi Daniel Roselaw, who's got a fabulous website called Hilchata, and he's got thousands, over 1,000 shiurim there. And I've listened to this particular shir. It's a very short piece that I'd like to just share with you. A very interesting case in Choshen Mishpat, which can easily happen, as you will see. What is the background case? The background case is that a fellow goes into a fancy silver shop and he's looking to buy, let's say, a nice menorah, and accidentally he damages one of the menorahs. And let's say the menorah cost £1,000, and because of the damage he perhaps made a dent in it. It's now gone down to £800. The trouble is, the seller is a very high class shop, and he doesn't sell damaged or repaired goods. So the question is now, how do you assess the damage done by this person who went into the shop? The owner of the shop is claiming that he needs to be paid the full £1,000 because that's the damage which he has suffered. He would have sold this for £1,000, but because there is a dent in it and he cannot sell damaged or repaired goods according to their shop's principles, so therefore his actual loss, let's say, is £1,000. And the person who did the damage said, well, it was a mistake, and I'm very sorry, and I'll pay you for the actual damage, but the damage is £200, and it was £1,000, now it's £800, and it's not my fault that you don't want to sell it, that's your choice, but it's worth £800, and you could sell it for £800, so I'll just give you the balance of £200. How does halacha look at that argument? So, we take, and this question came in a kuntras called Kuntras HaYoshar v'Hatov, and if you're listening online, please email me, I'll send you the handout, j.golker@gmail.com, and this is in the second box on the handout. This is in Sha'ila Lamed Hey, Omid Kuf Mem Zayin of this kuntras. Echad Omad Bechanut Likli Chesef. A guy goes into a store, a silver store, Umachmas Izihirut, and because of a lack of care, Hipil Hagvia Echad Benase Kemet. What happened was he knocked one of the goods and it became dented. And he wants the full price that he was selling it for. Because he doesn't sell damaged goods, so therefore how do you assess it? So that was the case I just described. Now, we'll see that, interestingly, the halacha is not going to be like the owner of the shop who's claiming £1,000, nor like the person who caused the damage who says it's £200, but we'll see something different. Let's take a look. The background is a Gemara in Baba Metzia, Daf Tzadi Tes Omid Beis. The Gemara there says the following: Omar Shmuel, this is box number 3. Haiman de Gozel Chavitza de Tamri Mechavere. A person stole a box of dates from his friend, Ve'isbei Chamishi Tomri, and he has 50 dates in it. Agav Hadodi. If they would be sold together as one unit, then it would cost 49 prutos, which is the smallest unit in sort of the Gemara language. So if you would sell the box of 50 dates, you would sell them at 49. But if the person would sell the dates individually, then each date would be sold as a pruta. So you sell a box of 50, you would get 50 prutas. So a person stole this box of 50 dates. Again, how do you assess the damage? Is it that you have to pay 50 prutas because that's what the person could have sold them for if he were to sell the dates individually? Or does he have to pay 49 because that's what the box of dates actually would cost? Says the Gemara, Meshalem Chamishim Nechichad. You pay 49. Maskiflar of Bibi, Amay Meshalem Chamishim Nechichad. The name Alei, Ana Chad Echad Mizavneluhu. But let the person say that I could have sold them one at a time and I would have got 50 prutas, so that's what the damage is to me. And Rashi explains that if an animal goes in and eats from a field, let's say he eats from a field of vegetables and he eats carrots and potatoes worth £20, do you pay the actual value of the £20 of the food that was consumed, or do you pay what's known as the diminution in value of the field pre the damage and after the damage? And the Gemara says, kama hoiso yofer v'kama hi yofer, and that's what the Gemara says, that you actually pay the diminution. So the field was worth £1,000 and now it's gone down to £995. The field is still essentially worth pretty much the same, so the damage is only a smaller amount, and therefore applying it to this case, the Gemara concludes that he will actually pay 49 prutos and not the full amount. And the Shulchan Aruch paskins this in Chosh Mishpat Hilchos Gezeles Siman Shin Samach Beis Hagoizel Eshkol Shel Tamarim. If someone steals this box of dates, or boy nun tamarim, v'mimachru kulam biyachad ein neshava ele memtes prutos. If you sell the box as a whole, it's worth 49 prutos. V'mimachru kol achas b'fnei atzma yishavu chamishim ein meshalem ele memtes. You only pay the 49. Now the question is, can you extend that case to our case? Why? Because that case is a case of theft. We're talking about a case of damages. Says the Kuntras Hayoshav Atov, he quotes the Shittim Ukubetzes over there in the Gemara in Bab Metzia in the name of the Ramach, that he basically says you can v'chein b'mazik mamen chaveru ein meshalem ele kama hoyanimka kol osin mamen yachad. And therefore, based on the Shittim Ukubetzes, it would seem that because you can extend the Gemara there in Bab Metzia from theft to damages, in our case as well, it would seem that you value the whole lot, the whole box, and not the individual units, and therefore you're looking really at the objective damage and not at the damage that the owner himself was facing. In other words, we're looking at the objective damage. The objective damage here seemingly was £200. It was worth 1,000, now it's worth 800, and not the loss that the seller is saying that he is losing, i.e. the full 1,000, because I don't sell second goods, and therefore the loss to me is 1,000. We don't look at that, but we look at the damage objectively. So, on face surface, it would seem that in the answer to our situation would be £200, the actual damage, and not the £1,000. However, the Kuntras Hayoshav Atov says that is not going to be the answer, and he bases it on a sman, the last paragraph of the sheet, and he says a very interesting psak. And he says, if you think about it, since you're looking at the objective damage, then you have to broaden that definition a little bit further, because if you're looking at objective damage, maybe you could go to a different silver store and buy this item not for £1,000, but maybe it would be sold for £900. Maybe this is a particularly expensive shop, and therefore you go to another store that would sell this menorah for £900, and therefore it's now worth £800. The objective damage could be £100, not the £200 that we thought they'd have to pay. So in fact, it's less than the actual person who causes the damage may think. So what's interesting in this case, and again, you have to go to your own local Beis Din and Rav to paskin these sort of shilas, they're complicated. But what's interesting is sometimes halacha would say that both arguments are actually not what the halacha says, that they're the middle ground. And therefore, in our case of this fancy silver shop, the guy walks in and causes damage to, let's say, the menorah, that was sold at 1,000 and is now gone down to £800, and the owner of the shop says, I don't sell seconds, and therefore you need to give me £1,000, and the guy says, no, it's only worth £800, I did £200 worth of damage, that's all I'm paying. It could be that according to halacha, since you have to look at the objective damage, and objectively it could be that this item is sold for less than £1,000 elsewhere, let's say £900, and now it's gone down to £800, that it could be far less than both the seller is suggesting and the person who caused the damage, even what he is suggesting.